Good evening, folks. This is Neil's Meals. I cook on the internet. I was just setting up some rice for our dinner tonight. Hey, J Fries. Thanks for rating. Hope y'all are all doing well. Fire Dancer, Matthew J, Dark Passenger, Crawdult. Thank you all for coming. Tonight I'm making an old favorite here at our house, the black beans and rice dinner. So to get started on this, yes, it is. It's great to have a raid to start off. It just so happens that it's my husband's channel is in the other room. So I kind of have that built in, which is always so nice of him, and it's always so sweet of his community. I love being here to, cook for people, make this more approachable. Yeah, my family, they got me this Neil's Meals sign. They got me this apron. They got me a Neil's Meals oven mitt. It's so cool. I never expected any of it. Let me just set up the rice. It's a little off camera because I didn't want it right here in the middle of the shot, but I just need to put some water in it. Helps if you have enough. All right, that's too much. All right, so we'll pour that in there and put the lid on our Instant Pot. Oh, something just happened. Oh, thank you, Arcade Castle. That's so sweet of you. Thanks for gifting that raid. I mean that sub. Sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once. Let me just start this rice. All right, so that started cooking. So black beans and rice is something that I was introduced to in college, and it started as simply as, a can of black beans, a few seasonings, and some rice, and I've slowly turned it into this production. I need to get my pan out. And put it on some heat with some oil. And just start that heating. You can turn that a little bit. We'll just start that heating, medium low. Well, I'll just leave that on. And now we're going to chop down the vegetable. Oh, thank you, Fire Dancer. You're so sweet. I thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy what I'm doing. It's nice of you to do this for all of my people in here. I really appreciate it. It's so sweet, all the support y'all give me. I really just love that I can even get people here. All right, so we have a bell pepper, and we have an onion, some celery. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Oh, well, thanks for the bits. Matthew J, I appreciate that. And we have this big honkin' onion. All right. So I'm gonna get a knife. And so we'll just break this down. You're just gonna dice all of it. Let's do this. And I'll move this over here. All right. All right, so we'll set that off to the side, and we'll do the same to the top. And then you know how it goes. You just go through this and do it into long sticks and cut the sticks down and chop them up. And you know, if you don't like something I'm putting in here, you could always leave it out. I personally don't think it would taste as good without, you know, these starting vegetables. I know my sister doesn't like pretty much any onion to be detectable in a dish, like even if it's cooked. Oh wow, almost on a hype train, I think. And of course the idea here is that we're gonna, you know, chop this fine enough just knock that down a little bit. That, you know, it's not going to be crunchy when it gets to the end. Sometimes I don't cook it long enough, and it is. Oh, I agree. I mean, it's you know, there are so many people who say they don't like celery and they don't like onions, and when I hear that from people, I think you don't like food. Because practically any dish in Western cooking is going to start with an onion. At least any savory dish. Not everything, of course, but there's a chance that you're going to put some onion in it, or you're going to... I do have celery seed. Thank you, Jay Fries, for the bits. Also for being my mod. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, I have celery salt and celery seed. It's not actually celery seed. It's from the lovage plant. And actually, when I use dried beans in this, and I cook them in my Instant Pot. And when I cook them, you know, I don't go to a super lot of trouble, but I try to give them a little flavor. So I throw in some dehydrated, you know, onions and some celery seed, carrot. No, so the trinity is bell pepper, onion, and celery. Carrot, onion, and celery is mirepoix. So just break this all down. I can hear my rice is going on. It looks like a hype chest was delivered. Thank you all for contributing to that. Y'all are so good to me. I guess I should put it back on this. Sofrito. They call it sofrito in Spanish and Italian. And I guess you would call it that here. Although sofrito is usually chopped much finer. If I go for a sofrito, I usually do it in the food processor. And that probably would be more correct here. Black beans and rice, of course, is all throughout the Caribbean. The Cubans make a version. The Puerto Ricans make a version. Lots of America makes a version that comes from one of those. You know, this is kind of what I'm doing here. Oop. Yeah, I mean it does. This is not authentically This is not really authentic to any tradition. It's just what I've come up with. I will do what I can for that Pixel Mog. Thanks for coming in. All right, so I'm going to put this already in this pan to start cooking. And while I'm doing that, I'll put in a little salt. All right, so we'll let that cook, and we'll, hey Pass, thanks for coming in. Well, thanks to everyone who comes in. Got this big honking onion. Oh no, it's fine. I know people are using like phones and TVs and all sorts of things to do this on, and I'm not the best typist myself. I never learned to touch type. Oh, thanks. Yeah, we used to have, so we got those when I was a kid. We used to have the bottles. But my sister and I, after my mom passed, like they sat in a closet for years. Yeah, they said it was, well, so I ordered this from Kroger Delivery, which I'm about to lose here. Oh. And they said it was jumbo, but I didn't believe them. I'll put that in there to start cooking. Yes, it is a big onion. And you know, I could save this half of onion. It's really probably enough. But there's nothing I'm going to do with it, right? I don't have any plans to do something like this in the next few days. I don't really like to keep an onion in the refrigerator very long. So I'm just going to put it in. I got a bunch of beans that'll take it up the slack. Believe them? I'll have to take a look. All right. thanks for the clip. All right, so we're just gonna saute those off. Well, I guess not really saute because it's not that hot, but you know what I mean. We're gonna cook those down, soften them, put a little bit of salt in them. Give them a little more heat. Leave that sort of on it so they steam a bit. All right. Beans, ham, and rice. So there's no ham in this one. The most it gets is some chicken broth and chicken bouillon. But, and I probably should have streamed it, but I just had so much stuff going on. Okay, the rice is pretty much done and will sit there for us, so that's good. Actually, I'm going to do something here. The other day, we made, or I made, there's no we about it, really. I made black-eyed peas and cornbread for New Year's Day. And that had ham in it. Actually, that had jowl bacon, which is it's a smoked, it's sort of fattier than bacon, comes from the cheeks of the pig. And I put some country ham in it that I had. That is probably not as good as what I would want to eat. Like it had, dried out a little bit, but was perfectly fine in that, because it's almost a little soupy. It's sort of like a stew, not a snoo. A snoo is like snoo, which I love that there's someone in Food and Drink who has Death by Snoo as their name. That's hilarious. So I'm just taking the paper off some garlic here. Oh, this one has seen better days. Probably should have gotten some more garlic. This will have to do. Yeah, no, it was really cheap, and actually what I did was I packaged it into rashers and vacuum froze them, and so I keep them in there. So I just bought one pack, and it just lasts me a long time because I usually don't use more than 3 to 6 slices. I think I used 3 and just cut them up into little strips. All right, let's see if this one is any better. Because I think this garlic is almost at the end of its life. I think it's getting a little rubbery. It'll be fine for this. No, we're not doing snoo. Yeah, I mean that's the thing about stuff like that, and it's hard to find. So what I was actually looking for when I bought it was what we always used when I lived in Virginia, which was a product that you either saw as pork side meat, or sometimes I saw it sold as strick-o-lean. And strick-o-lean is very descriptive. It's like a fatty bacon. Sometimes it's peppered. Actually, usually it was peppered on the outside. And we use that in green beans. Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny. Everywhere you go, you see different pork flavoring products. Here you see a lot of salt pork. You see more of them in places that pigs were classically cheap. So in the Southeast, a lot of barbecue is pork. Because the barbecue of whatever place you go to is the cheapest meat that was classically there. In Texas, it was cows because they had a lot of cattle. In the Southeast, it was pigs because there was a lot of pigs. And a lot of connective tissue. Yeah, it's pretty fatty and I've never bought it because it was just like not. It was always in the store, but it was not something we ever bought. But I grew up on that salty Virginia country ham that classically you could get from Smithfield, and now Smithfield doesn't even make it. They're smaller producers, but it's. If I had to describe it, it's a much, much more rustic version of something like Serrano or prosciutto. It's a dry, cured, very salty meat, ham. And I can remember we would cook one. You'd get it from the grocery store, and it would come in a big bag, in a big canvas bag. And when you opened it up, it had a bunch of salt on the outside. These need to go some more time. Here, just put that back on. So when you got one, there'd be salt, and you'd have to scrub that off. And sometimes there would be like some there was like a white mold that would grow on the outside, and that was fine. You could just scrub that off. And then you would have to soak it, and you would soak it like in a water. Like they would come raw. And so you would have to soak this to rehydrate it and to get, draw some of that salt out. And I mean, if you didn't want it super salty, you often had to change that water and let it soak some more. And then what we would do is we'd get one of those oblong speckled roasters. Meals on Meals, huh? We'd get one of those big speckled, like black and white enameled roasters. And we would, yeah, exactly, Crawdell, the city ham. Most people grow up with city ham. I like city ham, but I don't really think of it as special. It's pretty much, you can buy it pretty much everywhere. You can buy it at 7-Eleven. But I do like it. And sometimes, like for a sandwich, boiled ham is just what I want. And that's why I often get the Boar's Head Deluxe boiled ham. I don't say that this is authentically Cuban Master of Splits. It's just my take on it. There's some things I do that probably no Cuban would do. All right. This is softening up. That's good. Things are getting translucent. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of water in this and simmer it a little bit, because I just don't want it to, I don't really want a lot of color on this. Or, I know I'll get some, but I don't want it burning. I don't want it burning. So there are two types of country ham. There's what's called salt cure. That's what I grew up with. And then there is a sugar cure. And that's what you see, like, you get that in places like Cracker Barrel. And it's good, but it's not the same. And the hams, and depending on where you got them, sometimes they were smoked and sometimes they weren't. The classic Tidewater Smithfield country ham was usually not smoked. And you might wonder how I know all of this, and it's because my dad was super picky about this. So I just remember it. That's the recipe. I got the garlic here. But it's hard for me to get. The last time I went back up to Richmond was at the beginning of December, and we went to this place way out in the country. My oldest and dearest friend and I went, and it was served family style in this old house. And it was very country. It was like going to somebody's farmhouse and eating at the table, and they brought all of the stuff to the table, and you picked like 3 meats. And so we picked, there was fried chicken, country ham, and roast beef. The ham was really good that they had, and I bought some from them. In Virginia, in Richmond, I could buy it at the deli counter, country ham. And that was typically what we would use, because you could get it pretty thinly sliced. That was what we would use on like ham rolls or ham biscuits. I mean, I haven't done like a whole ham since, I don't know, probably since the 1990s. Because that was probably the last time my dad wanted to deal with it. But you would put that in that big speckled roaster and put it on 2 eyes on the stove and let it sort of, you would simmer it, but it was a very slow simmer. It was just like every so often you heard a bloop, there was not any sort of hard boil to it. And you would do that like all day. And then when it was done, you would take it out and dry it off. And they would pack on some brown sugar and some crushed pineapple. They didn't put cloves in it because my mom didn't like cloves. So I don't know what that tastes like really. But I can't imagine liking a clove-studded ham because clove is a pretty powerful flavor. So I don't like to use it, but so much of it. But it was really good. Okay. So I'm just waiting for those vegetables to soften, which they should be ready in a few minutes. And then I guess what I can do right now is drain my Rotel. So at some point I started to add in tomatoes to this. I think it started with I was putting salsa in it. And you could do that, and that's good. This is not the hot Rotel because I used something else to make the dish spicy, and I don't make it super spicy because, for a couple of reasons. I don't tolerate it well, and I don't want to get it depends on the ham. Pineapple juice is usually pretty good. Classically, you would have put pineapple rings on it. And one time, all we had was crushed pineapple, and they liked the way that it packed on and sort of stayed so much, and they didn't have to deal with toothpicks, that they just went with it. All right, so I'm going to drain these 2 cans. This is basically Rotel. It's tomatoes and green chilies. Yeah, a whole ham is a lot more than it was then. And it wasn't cheap then. I can't even really imagine paying for one now. Did I not? I must not have pried the top off. Okay. So I'm going to turn this out just to drain the liquid out of the can, out of the tomatoes. So I have those draining in the sink for when I need them. Yeah, you can get a ham that's already done. You can try to think of who you could order it from. There's a company called Pados that does them. They'll sell you like a little petite ham. It doesn't have a bone in it. Although, I mean, part of the fun of having a ham is that you have that bone that you can cook other things with. All right, so this is probably when I need to move this other camera over here. Oh. Let's see what we get. All right, so I have these vegetables that I've cooked down in this pan. It's getting a little dry, which is fine. I'm going to put in a little bit of oil in the middle there to put my garlic into. And see if I can do it all before it burns. All right. So we have all of that. I just kind of want to give it a little color there. Not too much. You don't want burnt garlic. It gets really bitter. All right. So I'm going to sort of stir that in. And now's when I'll put those tomatoes in. Because they'll be a little wet. All right. Be nice, Rotel. He only gets to smell it because he's here. I do wish I could find a way to send this all to you, but as we've all found out over the years, when something turns into a frozen dinner, it becomes somewhat awful. All right. So we have that. We'll give it a turn the heat up a little bit and give it a little color if we can. Shakes fist. The last thing I streamed was jam thumbprints, and they were really good, and they didn't last very long because we both ate them. And my sister was like, "Did you send any to me?" And I'm like, "No, we ate them." You ate them all that quick? Yeah, they were good. Yeah, I mean, there are frozen dinners that are okay, but like, it's that they're okay for being frozen dinners. Usually like some like Italian things turn out okay. They're not really Italian, but they're usually satisfying. All right, so this has a bunch of liquid in it. The tomatoes sort of exude some liquid, and we're capitalizing on that, although we are going to use some red wine in this in a minute. So we're really just kind of trying to dry this out a little. Caramelize it a little. Actually, though, this dish, we thought we were having someone come over to eat with us when it's done. So I planned to make this pretty big, and so I may be freezing some of this, and it does freeze pretty well. I wouldn't mix it with the rice and then freeze it. I would make new rice each time. Yeah. So let's go back to this, because so much of this is just till it looks right. And there's a lot more here of this than you would have if you followed this recipe, because I did use that big onion, and I used 2 cans instead of 1 because I've got more beans than I would typically do with this. But that's fine because we like this dish, and I can freeze some of it and it'll be fine. All right. So let that cook for a minute, and we're going to get to the wine, and I've got some beans here. And some broth I'll use. So this is broth, and this is a pound of black beans that were dry, and I sorted them, made sure there were no bad ones or stones, and cooked them off in the Instant Pot, drained the liquid out, and put them in this container last night. Okay, it seems to have gotten a little color, not a lot, but it's a little, it's enough. We've concentrated some of those flavors, so I'll turn that down a little bit. And then we'll put in, so my whole thing on cooking wine is it does not have to be expensive. Do not spend ever probably more than, I wouldn't spend more than $10 on a bottle of wine to cook with, and very often I spend less than $5. This is a Yellowtail Merlot. It was $5, I think. Is it something I'd want to sit and drink the whole bottle of? Probably not. Have I ever had any problem with using this wine in cooking? No. It's a medium-bodied red. That's what I want. So I put in, I don't know, half a cup or a cup of wine. I kind of deal in, an amount of a bottle, and that was about a quarter of the bottle. So I just put that in. The wine will, sort of dissolve any of the alcohol-soluble compounds, give you a little liquid in it, and give it some flavor. The end dish does not taste, of red wine. It's just makes it sort of gel a little bit. All right, so we've got that and that. I probably won't need this anymore. I need a drink. Okay, so we're going to do the flavorings of this, and I'm missing one of them. I tried to get everything out before I started this, but you know, sometimes it doesn't work out. All right, there it is. So the first thing I put in is usually, and this is sort of an optional ingredient. I did this because I was trying to put some more sort of umami flavor into it. And so I bought this off of Amazon. And it's a porcini mushroom powder. It's a porcini powder. The reason it's in a Ziploc bag is because they put a Ziploc. You know, I really hate when this happens. Why do they bother to put a shitty zipper on a bag? Just don't do it. I'll use my own bag that works. First world problems. All right. So I just sort of put in like a spoonful of that. It gives it a nice background umami flavor. You're not going to really detect what it is, which is why you don't have to do it. And actually, if you wanted to, you could just chop up some mushrooms and cook them. Porcinis are particularly flavorful, so that's why I use that powder, as opposed to you can get like a shiitake powder. And this is a good way to put mushroom flavor in if you're dealing with someone who doesn't like mushrooms, you know, the texture or whatever. And I can understand that, because when I was a kid, I didn't like, you know, they were mushy and I didn't like them. They're kind of slimy. And it was until, you know, I had them cooked well that I liked them. The same with the thing with broccoli. I was like 30 years old before I decided I liked broccoli. And it was in an Applebee's of all places that I got some steamed broccoli that was good. All right, so I'm gonna wipe off my little spoon that I use here. And this is a Cajun seasoning mix. I can give you all the recipe for it. I alter it. It calls for a tablespoon of cayenne, and I put in 1 teaspoon of cayenne, because 1 teaspoon of cayenne in this is well enough for me. So that looks like 2 teaspoons. I probably would say a teaspoon and a half, but in this I'm using this much because I have more beans. So it was actually, no, it was my mom who cooked them she overcooked them one time and they got a little crisp. And she had put in some salt and pepper and garlic and some butter. And they would often do that with steaks, but like if they weren't cooked, you know, that was when I started to be able to accept them. And now I pretty much don't care. My favorite was always that one little square of mushroom you'd get in a can of cream of mushroom soup. That wasn't really like a mushroom. Basically, it was just sort of a blob. It was mushroom analog. All right, so we've got some bay leaves. I've got 2 little ones I'm going to throw in there. Some people say bay leaves are useless. I find that if I don't put them in, I miss them. But if I put them in, I can't super identify them. But I prefer to not super identify them than miss them. Your mileage may vary. Cumin seed is always a good in this. This is a new little container, so I'm probably going to have to pry the top off because they pack it so full. We'll put that much in. You can't really put too much in. haven't figured out how much cumin is too much cumin. All right. And finally, I'm going to put in some oregano. That's too much. Maybe about that much. That's probably a tablespoon. That's probably too much for any other dish than this. What you have to remember is, and if you tasted this right now, it would seem all out of whack. What I'm doing here is I'm making a flavorful base before I add the beans to it. And so I have 1 pound of cooked beans. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people, I watch people cooking on the internet. It's one way I learn about things. I read cookbooks. I have a large cookbook collection. Don't usually cook anything out of the cookbooks, but I do read them. It gives me good ideas. Oh, Happy New Year, lesbian next door. Thanks for coming in. So we're going to just sort of stir this together a little bit. I'm going to add in some of this broth. This is a box I had in the refrigerator that I'd used some the other day. Hopefully it's enough. If it's not, I'll use water. So you want to put enough liquid in this that you can move it all around easily, because you don't necessarily want to crush your beans. All right. Get all of that in there. The beans had like a pinch of salt in them. I'm going to add some right now. I'm going to add about that much. It's about a teaspoon probably of kosher salt. I'm going to give it a little more liquid. You don't want to give it too much, but you're going to simmer this for a while, so you want it to have enough. All right, I'm going to bring it up just a little more. Yeah, that's good. Smooth this out a little bit. And actually, I'm going to take some time to put some actual this is black and white pepper, but everybody's so concerned about chili peppers and stuff. Put some black pepper in. I haven't run into anything except maybe a dessert, and there's a case to be made for using black pepper in a dessert, in certain applications. I've met a lot of things that I thought, chili peppers were not super good in, or sort of ruined it. I haven't met anything that I really thought of. Yeah, that happens. I always try to take them out before I serve it, but sometimes one slips by. All right. So we've got that. That's going to come to a simmer there. I'm going to go back here so we can watch that in the corner. Let me look up. Yeah, so there are two types of bay leaves that you might encounter in the U.S. Let me turn my hat a little bit because I think my hat turns around for some reason, and me moving my head, I guess. So often in a grocery store, especially if it's like a lower level brand, you'll see a California bay leaf. And you'll also see Turkish bay leaves. And what I put in there are Turkish bay leaves. Turkish bay leaves are more flavorful. Basically, they're laurel leaves, but it's two different species of laurel. So there's a company that I like to get spices from. Hey, good evening. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Oh, okay, yeah. Thanks for coming in. And I hope that you didn't have any problems with that bay leaf. I mean, the reason you don't eat them usually is that they don't really break down into a way that's comfortable to eat. I don't really think it will hurt you. And in fact, there are applications where they grind them. If you wanted to make this vegetarian, by the way, you could use vegetable broth. I'm just using chicken broth because I think it's better in it, and I had one open. I like to get... It's funny, some spices I don't really care where they come from. Yeah, pickling spice. Hi, Dark Auditor. Hey, they call him in his stream Darky, but I'm not quite comfortable saying that. But thank you for coming in, and I'm making black beans and rice. Not traditional by any circumstance. Let's take a look. It should be simmering. It's starting to simmer, yeah. Start around a little. So I made like a flavorful base with celery, onions, bell pepper, and mild Rotel. And I put in a bunch of spicing, some porcini mushroom powder, some Cajun spice, some cumin, some oregano, and bay leaves. And the beans are black beans, and it was a pound of them that I went, rinsed and sorted and made sure, there were no bad beans or like a stone or something. And then I cooked them in my Instant Pot. And the great thing about cooking beans in the Instant Pot is you don't have to soak them. Sometimes you'll overcook them and the skins will come off, and that's not as good, but normally that doesn't happen unless they're really old. And so now they're simmering. I think they need to simmer a little harder, and I think I'm going to do this so we lose some of the moisture. Yeah, it's one I've developed over many years. It's funny how recipes evolve for me because it's generally slowly, and I just decide I think something will be good in it. I think this originally started with a can of black beans and some cheddar cheese that I mixed into them and some rice. And now I put in a bunch of vegetables and, spices and things. The mushroom powder, I consider optional, but I put it in to sort of give it a little more umami. And later on in its cooking, I'll put in some soy sauce and some Worcestershire sauce, which are surely not authentic to this dish. But I think it makes it, it gives it some oomph. All right, so they're cooking now. I'll actually take the lid off right now. Give it a stir. And so basically, you're going to cook them until the liquid darkens and it starts to thicken up. And I realized that I'm pointing to it, and you can't see it. Oh, that is here. I'll put it in the little one because that camera can't deal with the boiling. So what I was saying is, this liquid is starting to darken, and you just sort of want it to thicken up some. Because you don't. I mean, this is almost soup right now. And I don't love it as soup. So the beans are mostly done, right? I cook them in the Instant Pot, and those that cooks them, you know, up to the level they would be in cans. And I think I say in it, you know, this is 1 pound or 3 to 4 cans of black beans drained. These beans will not be as mushy. I mean, they'll be tender, but they won't be as mushy as ones in cans, which personally I like. All right. Let me rinse this off and I will taste it. It's got the heat. It needs a little salt. Well, I'm not going to put too much in because I'll probably put some bouillon in it. So I did use chicken broth in this, but I am going to put in some, it's not quite there yet. It needs a little boost. So I get this stuff called Better Than Bouillon. I do not, you know, if they want to sponsor me, that would be great, but I'm not sponsored by anyone, except for viewers like you. But this stuff, I get this big jar of it at Costco, and then I can't open it. And I have to get this thing out the drawer. All right, yeah. So it's really kind of thick. Here, I'll go over here. So it's really kind of thick, and it's actually really economical because you can take a teaspoon of this and mix it with a cup of hot water and have broth basically, and it's pretty good. Sometimes though, I just throw it in a dish like this. All right. Yes, a little of that does go a long way. That was probably about a teaspoon and a half. This did need some salt, and that will give it some salt. And let me make sure it's stirred in. One time I used a spoonful of it like that in something, but I didn't really stir it. And there was this one really salty spot in the dish. And that was unpleasant. Oh, that's great. Turn it down a little bit. So if you notice, I don't know if you could see it on camera, but the bubbles are starting to grow larger and sort of stay there longer. And that means the beans are breaking down and working towards what we want. It is a little spicy for what I like, but we are at one point going to put cheese in it, and that sort of calms it down. But it's not, that amount of chicken base is not overwhelming. You don't notice that it is chicken base. You just notice that there's a nice depth of flavor. put some more pepper in it. I'm going to turn this down a little bit and sort of semi-cover it. I'll put that up there so y'all can look at it. Actually, no, you know what? We're going to go back to it. Because this is the point where I would do this. I'm going to put in probably about a teaspoon of soy sauce, maybe a little more, a little less, because I just re-pour it. And then some Worcestershire sauce, or Worcestershire. I don't know why people think that is such a difficult word to say. There's some guy on the internet saying wash your sister sauce, and I'm just like, really? That's the word you can't do? An English word? Just the name of some place? Maybe it's because I grew up in a neighborhood with old English names. Yeah, I mean, it's so I have a friend who was vegetarian, and that's the friend that I thought was going to be over tonight. Now he does eat poultry, and the poultry is more helpful in cooking for him. I was trying to make a vegetable soup, and I really wanted to use bacon as the base in it, and he was just like, I can't eat it. It doesn't agree with him. But I mean, you know, so many recipes I looked in started with some bacon, much for the same reason that a lot of soup recipes start with chicken stock. Some of them have beef stock. I make a vegetable beef soup that I probably will do sometime soon, and that takes beef stock. All right. I should do this while I'm waiting for that to cook. Let's, just so you know, I have a Discord. This is the Discord. I put all of these recipes in Neil's Meals, and then Neil's Meals Discord. Y'all can put whatever y'all make or look at, or you know, anything in your meals. And there is a recipe suggestion spot. In Neil's Meals, I post all of these. I upload these videos to YouTube, and I set them all. I put those. I put the videos up on that Discord channel with the full recipe. I started this with olive oil. I use a lot of olive oil. Sunflower oil is good. But you know what is also good? Bacon drippings. Okay. All right, this is starting to look pretty good. If your soup is too thick, Shipwreck, you can always add a little liquid to it, be it water or milk. All right, see how that's thickened up some? That's starting to look good. You want it to sort of, the liquid to thicken in it. Give it a little more heat. Put this lid back. That's almost to the end. Yeah, like if it's a cream soup, I would say use some milk or some heavy cream. If it's a, if it's more of a broth, I would just add some water or more broth if you have it. Ultimately, like, you could just have made this with water. I mean, it would not be as flavorful, but it would be good. And, if you're alcohol sensitive, you don't have to put the wine in it. You could have just used chicken stock. I just think it adds something to the dish. And would I know if it wasn't there? I'm not sure. I don't... Once I have something that I think works pretty well, I basically try to make it about the same every time. But, my husband will tell you that I have a tendency not to write a lot of it down, and it's in my head. So it's always a little different. Kind of just depends on how I am that day, the mood I'm in. If I was tired. If I was tired, the food is never as good. Oh, yeah. That's starting to look good. Let me taste it. This impeccably clean spoon. That's pretty good. And it has nappe, which is what you would want. That's good thickness. And it's okay for this to be a little spicier or saltier because you're going to mix it with basically white rice. So that's what it looks like there. There is one sort of thing I do. There are two things I add at the end. Put these over here. I think it all has enough of this. I think I might have over Cajun spiced it, but I'm gonna have to get a new bag for those bay leaves. It's a zipper on something that doesn't work. This would not be authentic, but I think the mild sweetness of it and the acid is really good in this. And that is some Trader Joe's balsamic vinegar. I don't think it has to be Trader Joe's. And of course, this isn't real, the real fine. It's sort of clogging up on me. Oh, it's running down the side. Let's yeah. All right, let's stir that in. That acid just sort of balances it out a little bit. Let me give it another taste. He always laughs at me because when I cook, there are all these little dirty spoons where I taste it. That's pretty good. I think it could go for a few minutes. Okay. I know I have something. Oh, there it is. I was looking for my drink. Okay. Oh, okay. Cardalt, I don't know if that means you're taking off, but enjoy your dinner. All right, we're gonna put this. We don't need these anymore. If I were really good, I would say take these scraps from your vegetables and put them in a bag and put them into the freezer, and then you could use them to make stock. Yeah, Jason got me this apron. He got me. There's a guy I watch on YouTube who's in Canada called his channel's called Glenn and Friends, and he sold aprons that say Glenn and Friends, and I have one. But he got me a Neil's Meals one for Christmas. Okay. All right, so the last thing I do to this is I put in some cheese. And that sort of thickens it. It will tamp down some on the flavor. I got a piece of a block here that I'll cut up into pieces and put it in. Oh, how do you make your stock? Do you do it in a pan for hours, in a pot for hours on the stove, or do you? So this is white cheddar cheese. You could use yellow cheddar. It does give it a better color, but I don't tend to worry about what color my cheese is. I'm not racist about my cheese, I guess. So I'm just going to cut it into actually pretty thick pieces, but then I'm going to break them down into smaller bits. I've made a pretty good broth with a carcass and some, sort of vegetable, minimal vegetables in the Instant Pot. There is a key to doing that, though. You need to put it on the, you do not do the quick release on the Instant Pot, because that makes it boil a lot, like super boil when you release that pressure. It works better if you let it do natural pressure. Yeah, salt, pepper. I usually for stock I just throw in some peppercorns. All right, I think this will be enough for this. I don't normally add it this way, but it's hot enough, it should be fine. All right. All right. So we're going to turn the heat off. Sort of take it off a little bit. All right, so we're getting to this at the right time because it was starting to burn a little bit on the bottom, but it's okay because there's enough liquid in here. The cheese will sort of thicken it up and thin it out at the same time. Here, I'm going to get a paper towel. Pick out that bay leaf. See if I can find the other one. Oh, there it is. Get those out of there. You do smell them when you take them out and when you handle them. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can see that. All right. So this is still pretty warm. You don't want it to be so warm that the cheese breaks, but usually starch from the beans in the water is enough to keep that from happening. So, and then you just sort of want to use the heat in the dish to just, sort of break all of this up and let it melt. So I'll put the lid on and put it back on the eye I've turned off so it gets a little heat. Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. Somebody I watched at some point said just throw some in there. With the amount of time you're cooking it, it's usually fine. Okay, let's do this. So the cheese is starting to melt. And it's gonna lighten it some and make the sauce, in the beans really silky. Cheese is a little salty too, but the fat in the cheese can sort of make it a little dull of a flavor. Give that another minute or two, and then we'll want to taste it. What we'll also want to do here is to check on the rice. The rice should be fine, but let's put this in a pot holder. All right. So I'm gonna use this fork and fluff my rice. And I used parboiled rice for this because it comes out very individually grained. It also has a little more of the, original nutrition of the rice grain in it. Because it's parboiled, it's boiled as a whole kernel, and that drives some of the nutrients from the bran and the outside. And so we have fluffed rice. And that's just plain rice. It's, it's just water, and I did spray the pan with cooking spray. All right. So this is plenty hot. Cheese looks like it's all melted through. Everything's fully combined. Let's give it a final tasting. Very good. A little spicy. Not too much. Cheese is not oppressive in it, but gives it a nice body. I'd say that's perfect. All right. So I guess the last thing to do, let's do this. And let's move this back over here. On test. Yeah, that's fine. If I put it here, yeah. All right. So we'll put the pan here. This is definitely a two-handed job. All right, and that's got the beans in it. And I'll get the rice, and we'll make a plate. All right. I have this thing that came with the Instant Pot for rice. Actually, it came with my old one. All right. So I just try to make a little bed of rice like that. Sort of an even thickness, maybe a little more than that. I mean, we've got plenty of rice because I made it thinking other people were coming. Why don't I just do two? Because we're going to eat two. All right. So I have this rice here and this plate. I just kind of whatever. I'm trying to get it in the frame. I just sort of smooth it out here into the bottom of the bowl. Maybe give him a little more. You can always err on the side of a little more rice or a little, it's fine. Just eat what you want to eat, and, we'll take care of the rest. So I'll put the lid back on this so it doesn't dry out. And then I'm going to use this thing if I can get it out. All right. And so I usually put about 2 scoops of the mixture on. All right. So that's what's for dinner. We're gonna have this black beans and rice. Before we eat it, we'll put some sour cream and some cheese on the top. I'm just gonna set these in the microwave oven so they don't get cold. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us here. I really appreciate it. I will have this video uploaded to YouTube, put on our Discord, which I think I did this, but I'll do it again. There's my Discord. And there is a link tree with all my other social media. So if you want to connect with me after after streaming, you can go right to any of those places. You can see all the streams I've done on that YouTube channel. Thank you so much for all of the raids, all the bits, all of the subscriptions. I really appreciate it. Y'all are really sweet to me. It means so much to me that y'all come here and watch me and play around with me, and we have these conversations about food, and it's a way I can get my mind off of some of the things going on in the world. Thanks for tuning in. I guess I should find somebody to raid for us. So let's find someone to raid. Oh, darn. I forgot to record this. I guess I'll have to download it. Let's snooze that. All right. Let's see if we can get... How long have they've been on for 6 hours? I'd be afraid they were going out. I guess we'll do this person here. It's a Guitar 220. They're doing pizza roulette with one of their friends. So I'll go ahead and start that. Again, thanks so much for coming, and thanks for all y'all do for me. I really do appreciate it. Y'all are so sweet, and I love having you here. I love sharing food with you, hoping to make it a little less complicated. I'm not sure that I'm winning on that, but I try to make it less complicated and less, sort of difficult to deal with. Y'all can suggest anything to me on that Discord channel, and if you want a recipe cooked, you can put it there. Y'all have a good night. I'm going to raid out, but I love you. Eat something good, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you soon.